The idea I have may be cliche, but surprisingly enough, it contains a problem that I've not been able to solve with any other applications of its sort.
Usually we'll come up with a bunch of questions since mulling it over in our head. What are the next things that we want to know about? And then we get back together with you and do another level.
True. I have an idea for a fitness app, but it's for a very specific user or situation a user may find themselves in.
There's a social aspect to this. You do this with friends and people
Mhm.
going in. And to what degree does the app need to share the workouts?
You need to make sure that you are progressing like objectively over time. These are the exercises that I'm doing. These are the reps and sets and the weight that I'm doing, but it's only for one individual. Kind of at the end, I'll give a short recap of like, oh, wow, we did 16 sets today or 23 sets today. And it's like, oh, wow, maybe if they had access to it, there would be more interest. But as of now, it doesn't seem to be a requirement.
So at Olio Apps, we typically do a discovery process for new customers when they come to us with a project idea. And so we wanted to record that process and show an example of what that's like. So Josh has an app idea, and we're going to do the discovery process with Josh's idea.
Totally. Yes. Thank you so much for chatting with me about this. And I think it's exciting to record the process. I think the idea I have may be cliche, but surprisingly enough, it contains a problem that I've not been able to solve with any other applications of its sort. I have an idea for a fitness app, but it's for a very specific user or situation a user may find themselves in. I'm not quite a coach, definitely not a professional fitness instructor, but I happen to care the most about fitness, tracking my progress in the gym compared to the rest of my friends and those who come with me to the gym. I want people to come with me to the gym and work out. That's much easier to do it in a group, but no one wants to do anything more than being told what to do. So I'm in a position where I am making the workouts, I am planning everything meticulously. And for anyone who's been in the gym for a while, there's this concept of progressive overload. Or if you are, bodybuilding and you want to grow muscle, which is a really important thing to do for one's health, you need to make sure that you are progressing like objectively over time. And I work out with people, I work out with women, I work out with senior citizens. So there's a lot of variation within the weights and even the reps and sets that are being done. And for me, it would be easiest if I could just look at all of those individuals' data when I'm putting that in all at once. And that's the problem. Right now, when I am at the rack, I can pull up an app and I can put in these are the exercises that I'm doing. These are the reps and sets and the weight that I'm doing, but it's only for one individual. If I wanted to do it for another individual, I have to create a whole new workout series, which is just too much. It's physically possible, but it's too much time within the workout session because we want to be in and out. Time is of the essence. I've thought about if you were able to make columns within that workout session and just say like, oh, I have person one, person two, person three, and then list it that way. That's one idea, but it's a challenge that no other application on the planet seems to be able to do exactly what I'm doing. And then because you have all that data, there's a lot of interesting things around analytics and progression that one could really mathematically determine a lot of factors around how you should be progressing. But that's a bit more down the line, I think. Realistically, it's just being able to input the information in the most efficient way possible that I'm running into.
Would you want to do this on a phone or a tablet?
Definitely on some sort of mobile device. I use my phone. I use my iPhone. I think I have a 16 or something like that. And I currently use an app called Boost Camp, and it pretty much does what I want, but it does way more that I think than I need it to do in certain ways, and not enough of what I particularly want.
And you mentioned that basically there's a social aspect to this. You do this with friends and people
Mhm.
going in. And to what degree does the app need to share the workouts to other people's devices?
For the people that I am doing this with, I don't think they've never expressed interest in wanting to see or wanting to know. Kind of at the end, I'll give a short recap of like, oh, wow, we did 16 sets today or 23 sets today. And it's like, oh, wow, maybe if they had access to it, there would be more interest. But as of now, it doesn't seem to be a requirement.
So it's kind of just like for yourself only to help them, and so like a headless thing that you're tracking it. It's facilitating your ability to help them, but you don't need to give them a report, or it's not a thing like they have to check their progress, right?
Not really. Not really. I think the most advanced analytics that it gives you is it can track your sets per series of exercise over a period of time. The interface in which they give you for that, I think, makes it kind of just like too much information. It would be better if you could give it a goal and say, I want to do X, I want to do 60 sets of this muscle group in a month. And it sort of show you like your X percentage of your way there. That would be much more helpful to me because in the world of like muscle building, you want to be getting a certain amount of volume metrics in.
I guess the app needs to locally store all your history, but for yourself, not sharing it with other people, how do you intend to interact with the data over time? Is it supposed to be stored only on your phone, or do you need to have it live elsewhere from your phone? For the first MVP to be useful, do you need it
Oh,
to
sure.
live anywhere else outside of the phone?
For the MVP, I don't think it needs to live anywhere else besides the phone.
Gotcha.
Do you know of others that would find this kind of app useful?
I can't imagine I am somehow so special or messed up in my process that I'm the only one that could benefit from this. But I know there's an interesting dynamic I know around some of my friends that do these group workout sessions. There seems to be one person who seems to be a bit more into it than the others, and it's hard to get collective buy-in to consistently go or to consistently do a process. Because of that, people stop going to the gym together, which means they stop going altogether, which is really sad because it's generally good for your health if you're doing it well and know what you're doing. So I think having something like this would solve that problem, and it's a bit harder of a problem to see because when the success criteria isn't made, the whole system fails of groups going together and working out. So it's been a bit hard to confirm that, but this is a pattern that I've seen.
It's interesting that this is meant to facilitate the group dynamic, but there is no aspect of the app that socializes people into that group. There's no notifications to the people who are part of the group that this is going to help. Is this sort of group enrollment via communication or sharing of data, like I mentioned earlier, part of any roadmap in the future?
I would say I think monetizing it. Part of my blind spot is I think I've manually done a lot of the group outreach and I do the group reporting because realistically, what have I already done? I've already pre-selected individuals based off of some sort of goal that they're looking to do. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
body composition of fat and muscle, growth of a specific muscle group, and program has already been designed. I've already sat down and designed exercises for them. We've gone through a number of motions, swapping out various exercises to personalize and perfect a system between multiple individuals. And now that
Mm.
that has happened, now there's this finer refinement of on individual lesson, session by session, being able to input that information. And there's more granularity and specificity you could do if you were like a professional coach or coaching a professional, not necessarily an athlete, but for someone who's in competition for bodybuilding or head specific goals that you could do, which we really can't, which makes it harder to know if we're optimally working out. So being able to externalize that to some point to where the individual who's in session with me and isn't just me can look at their information and reflect on those themselves rather than me doing all the computation manually, I think should be on the roadmap. I would like it to be a more participatory experience.
So it's kind of like phase one, phase two. Phase one, just to build like you consume this app for yourself. And then phase two, you start enrolling the people in like spreading the analysis and optimization of the techniques, right?
Mhm.
Mm, I have more questions.
Well, you're going to let me jump in. What do you do today? So you said that it's impossible with the current app
Oh, yeah.
Boost Camp.
So right now, I primarily just track the progress of my partner, and then I use all of her data as proxy shorthand in which to augment all of the workouts that I do. And so I know, like, oh, based off of this exercise, if they're doing this, I will do pretty much the same thing, but add a set or two, or I will add weight by 10 or 15 pounds. So all of that is just something I've memorized. I have this algorithm that I just manually compute in my head whenever they do that. This system thoroughly breaks down whenever we have a third person to the point to where I am not thinking of two different algorithms that I'm then pushing in my head. I just really wing it with the other person. They're not And the people that I'm working with, they're highly untrained individuals, so they'll respond muscularly to a wide variety of stimuli. And based off of their perceived exertion on a given set, I can pretty much tell what they could do or should, what they either need to be pushing themselves towards or can handle at that time. So that's what I'm
Mm.
currently doing. So it's a bit of a mix of just not doing it as well as kind of off the cuff doing an algorithm in my head.
It breaks down. It works well with if it's just you. Works if there's two. Doesn't scale to three, four, and five.
I'd have to care really hard for it to matter third person.
And you want to be able to offload the carrying to this app, so you can be able
Totally.
to right.
Because there's also an issue to where it actually, this process also hinders my progress. Because I will do extra workouts throughout the week, which is really muscular volume that I should be tracking in order to truly understand how much stimulus I'm giving particular muscle groups over a period of time and how it needs to be regulated, which I don't really track. So I sort of plateaued in certain ways because I don't have the right measuring system.
I imagine there are some table stakes that this app needs to fulfill, right? That isn't anything special to what that isn't like in the core add value add for this
Mhm.
new app. A library of exercise and being able to just record the results. Is the functionality in Boost Camp for that
I
a
would
good
I would
starting point?
I would say so. Some of those aspects I think are even like there's certain exercises which I think are overkill for them having, and then there's other variations that I do which they don't have. So it's hard for me to say this is like one to one table stakes, but in
Mhm.
generally, yes,
Okay, so we could probably map what those are.
totally,
Just like look through the app and go like these things are useful. This is useful, but get rid of this. And now we need to invent something that's completely new.
yes,
Okay, without going into the solution space quite yet, I mean, we're just gathering information, right?
totally.
Have you started working with anybody technical or other stakeholders on this idea, but we would have to interact with to get the context of starting? Do you have a technical co-founder? Do you have, do you, that's the first question. The second is, are you trying to create this on a particular schedule? Do you want to show it off at a particular event or anything
Mm.
like this?
Sure. So I would say right now, my technical co-founder is Claude for using Cursor and some AI tools, my AI co-founder. So they don't have any equity stake, which is quite nice. Big fan of that. And I wouldn't say there is a hard timeline on what I would like to do. I think there's a couple like industry conferences or events that happen throughout time. But I would be more interested in, this question made me think, maybe talking a bit more in the people I work out with and see,
Mhm.
if we had a better solution, what would be something you would like or find valuable? Because within the whole fitness app space, I think it's really like individual focus. There isn't an app where it's like, this empowers you and your friends to work out and be healthy together and live better lives as a group thing or as a community thing. That doesn't exist. It's usually like, wow, you can be as great or as muscular as you want, which is a pretty individualized situation. And there's lots of talks and narrative about like working out being a remedy to loneliness, but also like a lonely thing that happens. And it's kind of a joke if you do it with other people or your partner. It's not the norm, but it could just be a fun thing that people do for a relationship. And I think that's like a unique angle. And I'd be interested in really leaning into that. So I need to talk to the people I work out with and see if there's something
Okay.
I'm not understanding.
So generally in the process of this, we like to talk to the people who are involved in it, which
Mhm.
would be yourself. And then, if we had an opportunity to talk to the people you work out with to get
Yep.
their perspective from their perspectives, that's something we could do as part of the discovery.
Okay.
And you did mention, yeah, Claude as a partner. To what degree would you be involved in the actual development or design of this? Or are you looking to basically just outsource that whole thing, right? Rather and just be a consumer? Or to what degree are you going to be directly involved?
Certainly, as someone, I'd be interested in. I'm not married to doing any of the development myself. I would say I like the idea of maybe participating in some of the design or understand core technology infrastructure choices. I'm a big fan of AWS and I work in that space a lot. So, in terms of scalable infrastructure, serverless infrastructure, I lean towards an AWS. cloud infrastructure feel, or C sharp. I guess I don't particularly matter. It doesn't matter too much. But in terms of the design, I think I would like to hear what the options are and then help make those decisions. But really relying on an expert to kind of give me the pros and cons of each part.
And does that include visual design also? Like you would rather, would you, do you have a designer you work with, or do you need that expertise too?
That's an excellent question. I think if you had a recommendation, I would be interested in chatting with a recommendation about that. I have some designers and people that I do work with, but no one that I think best aligns to this project and this product and this goal. Makes me think I need to make some friends who are in the space who could give me some information. But yeah, I'd love to hear anyone that you have an idea for.
Yeah, we
Have
know.
you done any prototyping yet?
This is the problem with my technical co-founder is that I attempted to do some prototyping, and I'm an Apple person. I've been married to that ecosystem, and just trying to make a running build happen in Xcode using just AI, just the vibe coding experience made me want to fully rip my hair out. So no
Ah,
functional prototypes only.
maybe a potential possibility is to, we don't have the described solution yet, but just sort of thinking about how there would be phase one and minimal viable
Mhm.
works for you, and phase two works for your group. But maybe even before that, might be interesting to do prototyping,
Yep.
like so that we can kind of flesh out some of the ideas and see
Mhm.
how it works and test them early, right? Which is what we like to do.
The best solution I found so far is I found a series of like free open source spreadsheets that have tables and calculations made by a professional coach. And those were really helpful. However, it still didn't really allow me to change things on the fly. Because sometimes when you're in a
Mm.
session with somebody, it's like, you had all these workouts planned for this day. This is what I used to do is, maybe 4 workout days a week with programming that was already decided. However, when you're going to a gym, it's like maybe the people are on the machines a lot and you don't have time to go to this machine, or we're a bit tired today and we have to change some of the programming. It wasn't flexible enough on my phone to be able to swap those out to now
Uh,
where I go in every day. I don't even have a workout planned. I just have an idea of the what exercises the core muscle groups that I need, and then we just manually start going in and then I put them in. Which is not really how a lot of these apps and systems work. A lot of it's like everything is pre-planned. It's great if you have 100% access to those workouts in the sequence that you do them in, but if you don't, it breaks down.
your near use model, it's not like you pre-plan Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it's more you do it ad hoc. You know, you get in there and you like just kind of know today's leg day, and I'm gonna do these muscle groups. But it could be a different routine next week's leg day.
Ideally,
Yeah.
it isn't, or ideally, there's a few core exercises that always happen,
Mm.
but there's maybe two or three that could be swapped out. And that is based off of availability, personal preference, and personal ability.
Okay, well, Scott, I'll let you jump in there some more.
No, I'm just thinking. So you mentioned his free open source spreadsheets have tables and calculations. Is there like calculations for like as you for progression? So like where the app is going to assist you with recommending what weight and reps to do next time. Is that like a component of this?
I think it should. I think it should be, and I think in the study of all human disciplines, there gets to a point where there's lots of perspectives, opinions of the best ways or the right ways to do a certain thing, and the world of progression and progressive overload that certainly is there. And whether one is doing like block periodization strategies or Texas method or wave method of modulating progression and advancement. And this changes throughout someone's workout history. So
Hmm.
if you agree to a certain kind of methodology up front and you could preload the system with that information and knowledge, or at the very least, even if it isn't truly a deterministic reality, you at least have a benchmark in which you can compare. Is this person behaving like someone who responds to block periodization and Texas method, or are they behaving like someone that maybe needs to be doing a different kind of methodology? These are the things like I'm thinking about when we're in the gym, but no app is really preemptively thinking about it that way. You loaded this template, now you do that, and you better be able to do it kind of situation.
Is that part of your method? You think, let's say you're working out by yourself, you think the species of progressive overloading is X. That's what I want to accomplish, right? Then I want to apply that methodology, the
Mhm.
Texas one, for example, I think you mentioned. Then you would on the fly choose some exercise that makes sense for the day, but it's guided by that particular methodology. Is that how you also do your friend? You think, well, for me, I have Texas, but for Scott, the Wyoming protocol or
Totally.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Is it like that? Or you want to apply it for uniform? No, both of you were modeled bowling both of us on the Texas.
Realistically, one would want to have the flexibility to do one person one way because
Uh,
we have, genetics are true levers of variability. And also our goals can determine our method, whether what we're looking for. And those 2 points can vary so drastically between two individuals that
mm,
that's what makes it hard in order to pick one program. I've spent, literal years trying to find one of these protocols that seem to match or seem to produce results for the individuals that I work out with. And this is just like an approximate solution. It's not even an optimal solution. Is like a recreational lifter rather than a professional or like a semi-professional lifter is like another point of debate. But in terms of the golden mean of optimization, that would be my perspective.
mm. All right.
Yeah. So if there was a way,
With
Josh is thinking of Texas method, and Texas method should be applied to this category set of data, and someone else is doing wave progression, and this should be thought about in this way in this categorization of data. That would be like a really useful thing to be thinking about on the roadmap.
So then,
so on the roadmap, so potential. I was going to ask about
Mhm.
phases and
yeah.
like, what do you feel like is a must-have feature for your initial version?
I would love to see outside of so like the first thing is when I've walked up to the squat rack or the deadlift pad and we're beginning the workout and I'm loaded it up, that I can put in the exercises that I'm doing under a siloed user of me and also either apply that to another user inside the same screen or like just tab over or within the column. That functionality is definitely key. And then I'd also like to have the ability of setting some sort of goal or statement of like, I want to do this many sets of a muscle group per month or week or whatever, and just have that being tracked. So I can sort of psych myself in and out of like a little gamified aspect of like, I want to hit my goal. I want to be able to do this because I know this will help me with my progression.
Per person that you're working with, right?
Yeah, the
So they
exact
might
sets of
have
it.
the same goal or a modified goal in the same category.
Totally.
Like, for example, if I was working out with you, you'd make it for you. Then you look at me and go like, "Well, it's kind of like me, but a little bit different." Clone Josh.
Mhm.
Now I have the RN column, but we'll tweak these things. Then I have a third person. Maybe I clone me for that person, but I'll change these things, right? And
Yep.
then for each of the declared goal, is it at the goal at the level of the? I think you mentioned it's like longer time period than the exact workout period, right? That today it's more like over the next couple of months. The declared goal, do you foresee that being like some kind of configuration you do before you work out, or like or you do it during the workout, or
I would say that the goals are known before you even step foot in the gym. So that helps. Those are predetermined, and the results or the progress towards or away those goals are done inside the gym. But I guess if you don't go, then they're technically being done outside the gym if
and
you don't go.
would you say the goals are for the group of one, two, or three people that you have a mutual goal, or it's per person? Like, where do you put the accountability on and track and configuration
That's
for
actually
MVP? Yeah.
that's an awesome statement. I think you could have like group goals and like compare group like that. So far, I've only thought of it in terms of like individual goals, and so goals for each person that they're looking to do, and just being in the group makes it easier to do that. But part of me likes the idea that, because I know some people that have gyms and they're like, pound for pound, we're the strongest all women's strength gym in the entire world. It's just like how it is based off of all the people that go there and what we lift and the ways that we do it. Like, it's really fascinating. So I like the idea of aggregate metrics just because I think it tells a story of health and wellness realistically. And I like the idea of someone with a group of friends being like, we did 100 sets of legs this week. Like, wow, that's incredible.
So you'd be able to categorize that as a phase one or phase two, like somewhere in the spectrum, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. So, sounds like you use this in the gym while you're working out.
Mhm.
You're putting in the exercises that you do, and then you get another column for your buddy.
Mhm.
Do you use the app any other time,
So I use the app.
or how you want to use it?
Oh, sure. So definitely how I'm using it now has to do, like, sometimes I do like looking at, like, well, how many sets of this exercise or this muscle group did I do last month compared to this month, or last week compared to this week? And am I maybe on track to either doing that same amount or more? And generally, it's like, oh no, I feel like it's hard for me to really understand or plan to do it better. There's also a fair amount of science and perspective on, maximum amounts of sets one could do for a muscle over a course of a month or a week or a day, like within a training period, and how you would have to split that up over days or over sessions in order to actually get that maximum amount of volume done. And right now, that all has to be calculated manually. But it would be nice if it was like, you want to do, oh my gosh, like 60 sets of legs in the month of June. This is how you would need to phase it out if you wanted equidistant periods in order to maximize rest or something. Or you probably wouldn't want to equidistant because depending on the exercise, it can wear out the muscle in long muscle lengths. So you need to be doing machines in shorter muscle lengths. Now we're getting a little more technical weeds of how to structure per muscle group, but you
Is
can't
it this,
you can't do that right now.
is what you're describing functionality that exists in a different app also, but we want to carry on over into this new app, or you're talking about something that's unique?
So there is one other app that I have not used because it is decently expensive. As you do your exercise, you tell it like how hard you felt, it was. Depending on those answers, it helps modulate your next session with that muscle group, because there's certain qualitative signs you can look for that signal, was this too much or was this enough? You never want to understimulate because then it's kind of a wasted session. But if you overstimulate, that means it may be harder for you to make progression the next session. You're in the gym. So there's this golden mean that isn't the same for everybody, that the trainer or the coach is supposed to be like reading the tea leaves for and figuring out per person and per individual. So there's only one other app that has a version of this. In the scientific literature, it helps try to approximate this. So whether it may not be an app that has it, there is literature that has models for these things.
Yeah, so like examining the other app with which might model some of this
Yes,
and looking at that would be a good guide for us in future sessions of discovery to go and see
completely.
if we can port that over into your app in
Yes.
just the right way. Probably we could even create like a spreadsheet prototype model of how the data would be captured and computed, right? And then mock out very, very rough user interaction flow. Of course, the next phase of this would be for us. I don't know, Scott, if you got enough information now about the problems and who is going to use it and the potential workflows, we can go away, write it up, and review, repeat back to you what we have digested would
Mhm.
be kind of the next concrete step deliverable. And then I imagine after that, then we can talk about whether or not more refinements on the user interface.
Sure.
Oh, but I wanted to also ask an important question. Like, do you have any sort of budget for this, or is it self-funded, or anybody else planning to? What is your budget for a project like this?
Sure. Right now, it's self funded and driven a lot by curiosity. There's certain aspects of this application which I think are pretty simple in terms of inputting numbers into a database. There's some that has to be mapped to specific users. That information can then have some logic run on them at specific times. There's screens that need to be designed. There's user flow that needs to be designed. Those are like important aspects. Also, trying to work with individuals to get an idea of the total cost of ownership of something like this. With that being said, I do think there's a lot of potential for this. So I think I would really run with this and could probably promote and market something like this if it was existent, or if there was a clear path to making it happen. I think
So,
there's room for additional funding if there is
got it.
proof that it is proving what it does.
So you're kind of looking to us for a little bit of like a, well, how much get we once we clarify what this is actually doing, to sort of triangulate into how actually the cost of buildings would be. Is
Yes.
that kind of what we're trying to do?
Yes, I think that that's a decent representation of where I'm at with this,
All right.
or at least what a need is that I have regarding this.
Great. Well, Scott, do you have any other clarifying questions or points to make?
I think I'm good for this round. So usually with Discovery, we do a few rounds of
Mhm.
this. After talking with you, take a lot of notes, record the session. Then Arn and I will usually sleep on it, think about it, and then get back together internally and discuss it. And usually we'll come up with a bunch of questions since mulling it over in our head. What are the next things that we want to know about? And then we get back together with you and do another level
True.
of
Yep.
digging into this. And maybe if we come up with that spreadsheet prototype and bounce that back and forth and see if we can hammer out something that looks decent.
Yeah. So with the aim of defining what the cost of ownership and development is,
Mhm.
and maybe a draft of what our first official engagement would be after the discovery. We'd be able to maybe have that as a goal after 2 or 3 conversations like this with yourself and with your friends, right? And then culminating in a write up
Yeah.
from what I just mentioned.
Another aspect of this that is kind of tangential to this technical discovery that we're doing is kind of like go to market strategy,
Oh,
like
yeah.
how you would market this and grow this with users.
Yeah.
I think the fitness industry is really interesting because there's a lot of it, like people like to talk about themselves, and there can be really charismatic groups of individuals around certain workout methods or certain processes. And so I think there certainly is a go to market strategy, which is heavily influencer based, ground level sort of thing, which is not necessarily how I like to participate online in the world, but certainly exists. And so there's room, I think, for marketing in that way. I also like the idea, like right now, some of the apps really market themselves, and the one that I have is that they feature certain kinds of programs from popular people who are coaches who are making programs and doing that, and so that I think has got a lot of adoption. I think there's also tons of possibility because there's like a social focus and like a group collective focus with the application, and it's like serving the needs of normal people that just want to be healthy together. Like that's an angle I haven't quite seen pushed as well. So I think there's some novelty there, which would be interesting to play with. So besides that, I haven't done really thorough go to market planning, but that is the degree that I have thought about
Right. Yeah. I could work with you with that as well.
it. Cool.
Well, I think that's about all the time we had for the formal discovery part. And the typically would have a follow up sessions as I mentioned
Okay.
before.
Okay. Excellent. And then I can send you over the exercise templates that I have and had used that I mentioned that was like the closest thing I'd ever seen. But the big problem with that was it's really clunky to be using that on my phone and then trying to edit little Excel cells. By the time I have accurately selected a cell, it's now time for me to jump in and work out. And if I needed to make a change to what I needed to do during the day, forget about it. I have to just delete it, or I have to just try to memorize it, and then it's too much.
Yeah. What you're saying is that there's an ergonomics human factors aspect to this where you basically have to be able to deal with data efficiently
Yes,
on small scale devices, get it out of the way, right? And
there's
of course,
ergonomics issue
yeah.
here, huge
Yeah.
ergonomics issue. And then if you're not paying attention, it's like a safety risk. If you're standing above the bar and someone's pushing it, I've thankfully only ran into the barbell, I think twice, that I remember being like, oh no, that could have been worse.
All right. Well,
Right.
I think we can pause the simulation of discovery, which is like this the way we did it right now with
Mhm.
me and Scott and you is kind of typical of the first. It's like a combination of the, hey, I've never met you before,
Mhm.
part of the conversation, and the first interview for discovery. We kind of did it all together at once. I mean, pretending that you were a new
Yeah,
client, right?
exactly.
So, would you say, Scott, is that a fair assessment of how it felt?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think even these would just be useful for people to see and understand, both to familiarize themselves with you. But I was talking to someone today that had like an application idea and they just had like fundraising questions and this. And so I told them that, we have our podcast and like we talked about AI tools or prototyping. They're like, send that over to me. I want to see it. And it's like, oh yeah, definitely. So I think it is like generally interesting to
Yeah.
those with like less knowledge, which is good.
I mean, the manner in which we went through discovery, for example, people do this in different ways, right?
Yep.
But we do have a method that we've repeated
Hmm.
point lots of times, right? I don't know. So it'd be interesting to
We
see if
really try to get to like the core. Yeah.
that's right.
Try to get to the core thing that you're trying to solve.
Hmm.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's lots of exercise apps and there's lots of mobile apps, but like, what is the key differentiator of the thing? The key differentiator for this idea is you can enter it for multiple people. You can enter in your workout information for multiple people at a time.
And we would typically also challenge you in future sessions, for example, to see like, is this app actually what we need to make? Because there might be some due diligence on other types of things, and it might end up being reinforcement that we absolutely can iterate on what's out there, and there is a value to this, and really hold up a mirror to you, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it might turn out that, oh well, actually maybe there's already something that takes this, and it would be hard to break their hold on that niche. So it is truly like a discovery, right? Of like, we hold up a mirror, we can tell you what it would, how we would help, develop it, and the costs and
Yeah.
timeline and stuff like that.
And there's the meta discovery too of each other of
Yeah.
like, the things that are not said is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
things we're evaluating you and like,
Yeah.
has he really thought about this idea?
Is it a good fit
Yeah.
between us, right?
So
Like, is it appropriate? Are you at the appropriate
Yeah.
stage in your organization, your development, to be working with a team like ours, right? And vice versa. So there is that. It's really a discovery from that perspective, also. Yeah.
Definitely. No, I think in hearing y'all talk about it, it is, when you say discovery, you really are discovering the full gambit, not just, oh, are we going to take this on as a project or not, but fit of the client, fit of the idea, fit of the situation. And also, like, there's some triangulation between like, this is what they say they want, or this is what it's trying to do, but how will that actually play out? And is this really what they want? And how do we figure that out as soon as possible?
is what they're asking for going to solve the problem they
Yeah.
think have?
Yes.
Are we going to be successful as a group working on it and investing in it together?
Yep.
You as a client, us as, because but neither of us want to go into a thing that may not pan out,
Totally.
right? Yeah, absolutely. So it's a discovery.
Awesome. Well, I think this was really good. Thank you guys both for working on this with me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, this was fun. This was really good to template it out and then talk about the process.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.